From studies to documentaries, from debates to music programmes, from testimonies to talk shows. All are made possible because of viewer support for Revelation Foundation. Thank you for making it possible.
Hello and welcome to Testimony Time with me, Del Barefoot, on Revelation TV. It's great to have you, the viewers, with us again today, and we have an amazing guest with us. He's going to be really inspirational. His name is Simon Pinchbeck, and Simon is a member of Tough Talk, and Tough Talk is a group of ex-bouncers and East End hard men and former football hooligans, many of which work as power lifters, and they do demonstrations and are dedicated to sharing the gospel up and down the country with whoever will listen. They do a lot of work in prisons and with the military and so on, and we're going to hear about that work today. So Simon, welcome to the show. Great to have you with us today. Now, Simon, you were an experienced, respected police officer, 23 years of experience. You used to work on the football terraces, keeping rival fans apart. Suddenly, your world is turned upside down. How did you arrive in court on an assault charge? Can you just share with the viewers just how that circumstance came about?
Well, I'd like to think I was respected, Del, by my peers, and I just finished a 5-year tour on what they call a territorial support group. It's probably the nearest thing we've got to a riot squad in Britain. We drive around the bus in big buses with shields, and I was working up in central London, just finished a 5-year tour, and I moved out to work at Enfield Police Station in North London. And you know, Del, we make choices in our lives, and every choice we make has a consequence, and I was about to make a choice that was going to lead me into rather a bad consequence, although I thought my life was good at the time. I made a choice to join a younger set of guys, a younger set of police officers who were on a special squad, all plain clothes. And at the time, I was married to a lovely wife, Linda. I had 2 young boys approaching their teenage years, Tom and Jamie. I had my own house. I had 10 years to go to retirement from the police force. We was making plans for that, and things were looking very rosy. But all of a sudden, I started to adopt the single man's lifestyle. I'm ashamed to tell you. I think they call it the midlife crisis or the male menopause, and I was going straight for it. And I started going out to pubs and clubs, and I started enjoying this lifestyle. I didn't care that my wife would say to me, where are you going tonight? And she'd start crying. I just wanted to get out. I'm ashamed to tell you, Della, I just wanted to get a clean shirt on, have a bit of tea and leave. It's a time in my life where I think I went back to my teenage years. I got a great big tattoo on my arm, an earring in my ear. And I thought I was having a great time, but yeah, as you said, all the time my life was slipping away.
Yes.
I was so selfish, and I'm ashamed to say I left my wife at a time when her mother was terminally ill with cancer. That's how selfish I was. I didn't care that she had to look after my 2 boys by herself. She was constantly going to see her mother in hospital, and I walked out on her. Really? That's how selfish I got, and things got worse for me. In a nightclub in North London, I had a fight with an off-duty police officer. I knocked him to the floor, and I knocked his tooth out. And that's how I found myself up on a serious assault charge.
And yet, amazingly, the court verdict was not guilty. But you lost your badge anyway as a result of this. Now, did you feel, Simon, that all of those years of loyal service and dedication that you'd given to the force, all the good that you'd done, was meaningless? Was there a sense of disillusionment and rejection and injustice, or how were you feeling at that time? Yeah. Cynical?
Totally. I felt I had done all this for the police force. I was always the first one through the door, the last one out. You know, they used me as a battering ram, and I thought I was so selfish. I couldn't see my part in this. And yes, they rang me up. The chief superintendent rang me up, and he said to me, "Well done for getting not guilty." He said, "But where do you want to go now?" Well, the reason I got not guilty was on medical grounds. And so I said, well, I'd like a medical discharge. And they said, well, that's exactly how we feel. So they wanted rid of me anyway. But the point is, when I went to sign the forms to get out of the police force, they took me into a small room. It was a young boy. He was only probably about 17 years of age. And I signed the forms. I said, is there anyone of any senior rank going to say goodbye to me? And they said no. And he was just about to shake my hand and say, thank you for everything you've done. I said, please don't.
Don't bother.
Don't bother. And I left. And I felt empty, exactly that. You know, the institution had closed on me, and I was on the outside. And I did feel a great sense of injustice. I felt very bitter towards the police force. Couldn't see my part in it, though.
Yeah. So you weren't really taking responsibility for your actions. There was
Not
a sense of denial at the time, really.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes. So how did that traumatic experience affect you, and the way that you treated Linda, your wife, and your two boys, and other relationships in your life? Did it have a negative effect? Already you've admitted that you weren't really treating them as you should. Did things spiral downhill at that point?
Well, things didn't get any better, that's for sure. We didn't know where there was so much uncertainty within the life now. I had gone back with Linda. I'd gone back to the marital home, but things weren't good, and this really didn't help what was going on. There was uncertainty with my boys at their school, with their staff, and I had drink played a big part in my life, throughout my life. As a young man of 14, I was brought up in a brewery town in the Midlands, and drink played a big part in my growing up years. Police force, drink was a massive part with the police culture, and
really?
I was right in the middle of it.
I didn't realise that.
Yes, yeah, it's you know, you have to work, you go for a drink, and drink was just a massive part. Rugby was my main sport, and drink was involved in that as well. So, you know, I dived into the drink. Was where I felt safe, which made me a little bit more aggressive, and not a nice person to be around, that's for sure.
Was it the drink that led to that assault on the other police officer, do you think? Had you had a lot to drink before that event?
Not particularly, but it didn't, you know, that didn't help, yeah, that's for sure.
That's right. So did you feel that it numbed the pain and helped you to turn off from the stress that you were feeling in your life and the injustice that you'd experienced? Was that one of the reasons that you were drinking?
It's a big thing. It's another thing I could hide behind, that is for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So Simon, how did your life of crime begin? Was it a case that you were full of anger and bitterness at the system? Did you think, well, I've tried to do things with integrity. I've served for 23 years and I've been a faithful and good police officer. And did you think, well, darn it, if this is the way that they're going to treat me, I'm just going to change sides? Was there some element of that involved?
There was a large element of that involved, yes. I had time on my hands. I didn't know what to do for a job. I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was spending a lot of time up in a health club, at a gymnasium. And I saw a group of guys up there. They always had pretty girls around them, always had plenty of money in their pockets, and always had the best cars and stuff like that. And I wasn't silly. I knew how they got their money. It wasn't straight. And but I thought to myself exactly what you said there, Del. I thought to myself, I'm going to have a bit of this. I deserve a bit of this. All the years I'd put in the police force amounted to nothing. You see, the thing was, money had always been important to me. I didn't have a lot, but it had been important. I always dreamt of having a great deal of money. And I had a great big hole inside of me, and I was trying to fill it with whatever. And I thought money and material stuff was going to be the answer. So I started befriending these fellows. I started training with them, and very soon we started working together on the criminal side. And I saw more money than I'd ever seen in my life.
Really?
And, you know, I could have access to anything I wanted. You know, cars, clothes, restaurants, holidays. But you know something, I will say this, Del, that none of that material stuff ever satisfies you. I was trying to fill this hole here, but it never satisfies you. I'll tell you, and I'll give you an example. I bought a 4.7 litre Cherokee Jeep, great big thing. And I thought I was Billy Big Bananas driving around this thing, believe me, you know. A couple of weeks after I bought it, they brought out a new model. I didn't want the car I got, I wanted the new model. Got the new model, I saw a Range Rover, I wanted that. That's how it was getting me with the money thing. The hole wasn't being filled, it was just taking it all in.
So money had become an obsession and become your God, really.
Money had become my God.
Did you find that the guys that you were working with in the criminal fraternity, were they not suspicious of you, having been a police officer, or did you just explain your story and they accepted it?
There was an underlying mistrust, more than I knew at the time.
Yeah,
that's the
truth.
truth.
I just wondered if they thought you were a plant or something like that.
Yeah,
you know,
I think all that was going on, and I didn't. They allowed me to do so much, but I don't think they would trust me to do certain things. No.
I mean, looking at you now and speaking to you before the show, it's very hard to believe. It's amazing how Jesus Christ has turned your life around. But you soon discover that your so-called new friends have ripped you off for a tremendous amount of money. How did that come about, and what were the consequences? You speak about it, the possibility of death. You talk about the possibility of prison. What happened?
Well, I was very greedy and very selfish, and I wanted more and more of this money, and so much so that I said to these fellas, look, I don't want, we do a job maybe every couple of months. I said, I want jobs every couple of weeks. I was getting greedy, I was getting obsessive, I was blinkered, because I wanted the villas in Florida. I wanted never to have to work again, and I wanted to stockpile money, but I wanted to fill this hole I had here. And they said, well, you know, you better go and start working with a bit of tougher group of guys. And I did get introduced, and we started working together. And yeah, the money was good. And then they said something to me, Del, which many people may have heard. They said, if you want to accumulate more stuff, you've got to speculate. And as I said, I was blinkered. I was being led by the nose. That is the truth. And they asked me to put a lot of money, well, it was only what I thought was my money, it's only money I'd taken up other people, into a scheme. There was no honour amongst thieves, especially where money is concerned, because they took my money, and that was the last I saw of it. I went over to Spain to try and get it back, but I realised it had gone. And they'd taken away the money, they'd taken away the friendships, but most of all, they'd taken away the dream. And these weren't the sort of guys that I could, one-on-one, I could probably handle, but not in a group, because they come after me, my family. So I just had to say, look, I know what you've done, and separate myself from them. It left me the lowest I'd been in my life, and up to here in debt as well.
I was going to ask that, because you'd been betrayed, you felt, by the police force that you'd worked for so long, and now you felt betrayed by these so-called new friends. So really, you'd lost out both ways, hadn't you? On both sides of the fence, as it were.
Both sides of the fence, yes. And at that time, the police were following me on a daily basis, because they'd seen one of their own guys had gone bad. The villains I was working with didn't trust me, like you said. They thought I was going to tell them, grass them up to the police, which couldn't have been further from the truth, because I'd have dropped myself right in it. And at that moment in time, I did feel like I was, well, between two wild horses, and if someone had said go, I would have either gone one way or the other. I would have either been, and I make no qualms about it, probably in a shallow grave in Epping Forest, close to where I live, or doing a very heavy prison sentence. That was how low I was.
So the sense of hopelessness and despair was all-consuming, really, at the time.
Completely.
And you actually thought about taking your own life?
If it was the way out, then that's what would happen, yeah.
Well, praise God, to the rescue comes fellow Tough Talk Bryn Robertson, fellow Tough Talk member. How did you guys meet, and how was he such an inspiration to you, Simon?
Well, we'd met before, but at that moment in time, 9 years ago, I was in a gym. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was looking fairly good on the outside, but inside, my mind was going. My mind was mashed up completely. I was plotting how I was going to take these fellas out that ripped me off. I was going to do this, that and the other, and my mind was in 10 or 20...
revenge.
Yes,
Yes.
Revenge was like, burning away at me. And as I walked out of that gym, I looked over and I saw Bryn on the running machine. Now, I knew Bryn to be a very nasty, violent criminal in his day, but I also knew that he'd turned his life around through his faith in Jesus Christ. And I'm ashamed to say, I used to take the mickey out of him, saying, Christian this, Christian that, it's all right for you to be believing God, you know, you've got a few bob, that sort of thing. But when I saw him on that Saturday afternoon, the love and the peace that was shining out of him, I thought, if God can change someone like him, do you know, I think there may be something in it for me.
Really?
And that's when I approached him on that very day, and he took me under his wing, if you like, and we started going out for a coffee, a bit of breakfast. And I started asking questions about this faith thing. And there's a rub with this one, because, as you said, I used to do a lot of work within the police, football duty. I did a lot of work. I spent 10 years at the Arsenal, and I had a great big moustache then. They called me the Walrus. And I said to Bryn, I said, you know, he used to be a copper, and he said, yes. I said, well, they used to call me the Walrus over at the Arsenal, and he stopped. And he said, no. He said, you was the Walrus? I said, yes. He says, you used to chase me all over the terraces of Highbury, of Arsenal, because in the 80s I was an Arsenal hooligan, and you used to chase me. So God has brought us together for me to start asking questions about faith.
Incredible, incredible. So how did he lead you to the Lord? How did that process develop?
Well, it's quite amusing, really, in a way, because he kept saying to me, you must come to my church. Well, church wasn't really on my radar, Derek. You know, I thought all Christian men were wimps, dodgy fellows who wore sandals and socks. You're okay today. But that was my impression of a Christian guy. And but then he said something to me which made me change my mind. He said, come to church with me, Simon, and I'll buy you a nice steak meal afterwards. Well, I love a bit of steak, and we went to his church that Sunday evening, and it was a church in West London, Knightsbridge, called the Holy Trinity, Brompton. And when I walked through the doors of that church, it was February the 10th, 2002. I know it was that day because Arsenal beat Everton 1-0, so I always remember that. But the peace, Derek, the peace that hit me was like no other feeling I've felt before in my life. And it impacted me so much that on that very night, I said a prayer with a guy called Nicky Gumbel. I didn't know who he was, but I now know, obviously, he's the vicar at that church, and he fronts up a Christian course called Alpha. I said a prayer with him, inviting Jesus, inviting God into my life. I didn't know where it was going to take me, but it just felt right for me to do that on that very night.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So what effect did that have on your marriage and on your relationships? It must have come as such an amazing surprise to you, Simon, that God could actually blot out your past, all your misdemeanours, all the violence, all the crime, and could give you a new beginning and a new start in life and a future and a hope in Him. That just must have been overwhelmingly wonderful to experience and to know.
Absolutely amazing, Del, really. And I went on the Christian Alpha course.
Yes.
And above everything else, what hit me was it's not about religion. It's not about tradition. It's the fact that me, someone who had been a scumbag like me, could have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and through Jesus Christ, God. And that, like you said, that was an amazing thing. to find forgiveness, but not only that, to have a personal relationship with Jesus. Absolutely amazing.
Yes.
I said to my wife, because I'd tried many things to fill this hole, you know, and I said to her, I'm going on this Alpha course. She said, how much is that going to cost? That was, you know, how things were. But the difference in the last 9 years in me and in the things I do, it's been absolutely tremendous.
So it's brought healing to your marriage, it's enhanced your relationships with your sons and with other people in your life, with your family.
It's made me that complete person. It's that what I was finding, what I was searching for, I've found. The love of Jesus. I've found that. You know,
absolutely,
that's made
life
me complete.
Transforming.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely
because you
amazing.
sitting here today, it's hard to imagine that you were that scumbag, that you were that criminal all those years ago. So how did you get into Tough Talk, Simon? How did you get into the group called Tough Talk?
Well, again, we have to thank Bryn Robertson. He was a member and went to their prayer meetings. They have a prayer meeting every week, and he kept saying to me, come and meet this group of guys. And when I went down there, I just felt at home, and it was amazing what they did, and the way they used the weights to get people interested, but then tell their life stories, how God has changed their lives, how their faith has changed their lives, with the hope of it changing someone else's.
I'd love you to tell us about the work that you do in prisons. I'm just going to read out a quick testimony from a prisoner. He says, I am on remand for stabbing and robbery. I have done a lot of things I regret and have been involved in things I wish I hadn't. Until reading your book, I was convinced this was the only lifestyle for me. I know there is more to life now. I've been going to church every week and have realized I can be forgiven. It feels so good, like a load has been taken off my shoulders. So just a quick note to say thank you all so very much. And there's so many other testimonies like that from prisoners. And I understand you're working with the military now as well.
Yes, it may be the sign of the times, but 2 weeks ago we was out in Gütersloh in Germany, giving a talk to an artillery regiment over there, working with the Padres very closely. Last week we was in RAF Marham. We've done a lot with the military. And I'm due to give a talk in the military prison very soon as well. The prison work is, I mean, we do talks in churches, schools and outreaches throughout the length and breadth of Britain and also abroad. But the prison work is the most rewarding, Derek. It really is, because people say, you listen to the news, you listen to current topical programs, they say, prisoners don't want to change, they want to re-offend. But I'm here today to tell the world that prisoners do want to change. There is inmates do want to change, but sometimes they don't know how. And it's a privilege to go into prison institutions. There are over 180 prisons in this country alone, and many more in Scotland. Youth offenders, women's prisons. It's great to go in there and just tell people about my faith.
And some people are very cynical. They may be watching today, watching this programme and thinking, well, a lot of these prisoners only come to Christ and proclaim that they're a Christian because they think that it will go in their favour if there's an appeal or something. But you've seen prisoners, haven't you, Simon, coming to the Lord in tears, big, strong men that are lying prostrate before the Lord and are just weeping before him and are totally broken.
Totally broken, totally broken, totally realising that there's someone out there that loves them, will forgive them, and not only that, will lift them up and make them change and be able to help them change their ways. They're just desperate to change their ways. I had a letter from a guy. I gave a talk in prison in Milton Keynes, and a guy wrote to me and he said, I love what you said, but I don't think God could ever forgive me because I've done something so bad. You know, the word is that if you're truly repentant, which is a godly sorrow for what you've done, there's forgiveness for you. And that is an amazing thing. And when these guys realise that,
yes,
their faith is so strong when they go on with the Lord.
I mean, they're obviously impressed by your physical prowess and the strength and the macho image of Tough Talk. But One of the psalmists actually said that the Lord does not delight in the strength of a man, but he delights in the man that fears him. And the one thing they'll be seeing is the love and the passion that you guys have for the Lord Jesus Christ. And suddenly all these preconceptions that Christian men are wimps who wear sandals is blown out of the water, and they realise that Christian men are strong, and that Jesus Christ perhaps was well, I'm sure he's the strongest man that ever lived because of what he had to face at Calvary.
That is exactly right, Derek. And the thing is, my faith has not made me a weaker person, like some people would like to believe. It's made me a much, much stronger person.
Great. Now listen, Simon, we're coming towards the end of the programme, and there may be people watching that would like to book Tough Talk for their churches, for their events. It's particularly impressive for young people. And you've also got a new DVD. The DVD, Tough Talk, Stories from the Front Line, is just out. So that's brilliant. Tell us a little bit about the DVD and how people can contact you.
The DVD is about Christian men talking about their problems they encounter as Christian men. And it covers 3 areas. It covers addictions, it covers pornography, and it covers anger. And it's a great insight if anyone's got a men's ministry. It's such a great thing because you've got guys there who have been through the mill, and they're talking about problems they're encountering, even though they are Christian guys. If people want to get in touch with us, we have a website at www.tough-talk.com, or if they can just Google that, then there would be a contact page. We are a Christian charity. We only exist by donations, and the main thing I will stress is that whenever we sell one of these DVDs, or we sell one of the books, or any bit of our merchandise, we're able to give a book away in prison, which is fantastic.
Wonderful.
And as you've read today, these books change lives. So anything that comes in, we're able to give away more stuff in the prisons.
That's a really good deal. And isn't it good to have macho men being real? Men that have a relationship with Jesus Christ, whose lives have been transformed, that know the power of the Holy Spirit in their lives, and able to talk to men. And I'm sure that men open up to you on things that perhaps they wouldn't share even with the chaplain in the prison, or perhaps with their friends, or with their pastor. But they feel free because of what you've experienced and what you've gone through to open up. So
that's exactly it,
if you're viewing today, don't hesitate, get in touch, have a look at that website, www.toughtalk.com. And if you want to email Simon, there's an email facility on the website. And you're very free to get in touch with him. It's been great having you with us today. And we do hope that you've been inspired, that you've been challenged by what you've heard. And we look forward to seeing you Testimony Time next time. God bless you. God bless you.
The programme you've been watching was made possible because of viewer support for the Revelation Foundation. Programmes take time, effort and money. If you'd like to make similar programmes possible, then please send your gift to a Revelation Foundation. The details are on the screen.
What would you say to encourage us to look to the future, and perhaps in a way that we can continue to help? Is there a new way, perhaps?
Well, I think it's spreading the truth about Israel as opposed to the many falsehoods that are leveled against it. You spoke about the evils of the last 2,000 years. Those evils were made possible because of defamation, because of vilification, because of the lies that were spread about the Jewish people. And always, physical brutality was preceded by a web of lies. And I think that working the other way, building a bastion of truth about Israel and the Jewish people and the Jewish state, is the greatest corrective of that. And fortunately today we have a Jewish state, and we have many Jewish and many non-Jewish friends that can fight the battle of truth, which I believe is the most important battle for the future of the state of Israel.
Thank you very much. I agree with you entirely with that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Revelation Television is committed to making a wide range of Christian